All right, so you want to own a mobile home park. And here's the hook that should make you sit up. One of the most famous investors who ever lived, Warren Buffett, pushed his company deep into this world. And the reason he did it has almost nothing to do with the homes themselves. That is the whole secret hiding in this business. Everyone looks at the houses. The smart money looks at what is underneath them. Because in a mobile home park, you make your fortune on the one part of the property you never have to fix, never have to paint, and never really have to think about: the dirt. This is one of the most overlooked corners of real estate in the entire country. More than 18 million Americans live in manufactured housing, and mobile home parks quietly make up the single largest source of unsubsidized affordable housing in the United States. Investors call it boring. Buffett called it a business, and the people who understand it call it one of the most durable little cash machines you can own. So let us take it apart and find out why owning the land under the trailers can beat owning almost any building sitting on top of it. First, what do you actually own? And this is the twist that surprises almost everyone. In nearly every other kind of real estate, the building is the asset. You own the apartment block. You own the house. You own the office. The structure is the thing with all the value, and it is also the thing that constantly needs money poured into it. Roofs, plumbing, paint, appliances, repairs that never end. A mobile home park flips that entire model upside down. In most parks, the tenants own their own homes. They bought the trailer, they moved it in, and it sits on your land. What you own is the lot, the pad of ground, the utility hookups, the roads, and the right to rent that spot out. You are not a housing landlord in the normal sense. You are a landowner, and your tenants happen to have parked their houses on your dirt. Sit with how strange and how brilliant that is. The one component that depreciates, that ages, that breaks, that needs a new roof and new pipes, the physical home, you do not own it and you are not responsible for it. Your tenant is. You own the piece that never wears out. Land does not rust. Land does not need a plumber. Land does not depreciate. You have quietly kept the immortal part of the asset and handed the crumbling, high-maintenance part to your tenant, and they thanked you for the privilege and pay you rent on top of it. Now the part that makes people lean in. How does a mobile home park actually make money? And why is the cash flow so stubbornly reliable? There are 3 layers, and each one is better than the last. The first layer is lot rent. Your tenant owns the home, and they pay you a monthly rent simply for the space it sits on and the right to hook into your utilities. Here is why that is such a beautiful stream of income. Because you do not own the homes, your maintenance obligation is tiny. You are not fixing furnaces at midnight. You are not replacing carpet between tenants. You maintain the common infrastructure, the roads and the water lines, and that is nearly the whole list. Compare that to an apartment building, where a huge slice of your rent gets eaten alive by upkeep on the units. In a park, a far larger share of every rent dollar drops straight to the bottom line, because the expensive, breakable part of the property belongs to someone else. The second layer is utility pass-through. Many parks provide the water, the sewer, and the trash service to the whole community, and then bill those costs back to the residents. Done well, this does something quietly powerful. It turns what would be an expense into either a wash or even a small margin, and it lets your effective rent rise without technically raising the base rent. You are converting a cost line into a revenue line. It is not glamorous, but multiplied across every lot in the park, month after month, it meaningfully lifts what the property earns. And now the third layer, the one that turns a good business into a fortress: turnover, or rather, the almost total lack of it. This is where the single most important fact in the entire industry lives, and it is buried inside one word: mobile. A mobile home is called mobile, but it is, in practice, one of the least mobile things in all of real estate. Once one of these homes is set up on a lot, moving it is a nightmare. Depending on the size and distance, relocating a manufactured home can cost anywhere from around $3,000 on the low end for a small, single-wide short move, to well over $20,000 for a large home going any real distance. And that is before setup and reinstallation. Worse, many older homes simply cannot survive the move. They can crack, twist, or fall apart on the highway. So the tenant faces a brutal choice: stay and keep paying your lot rent, or spend a fortune and risk destroying their own home just to move somewhere else. And there's a cruel little detail that makes it even stickier. The homes that are hardest and riskiest to move are the older ones, And the older homes tend to belong to the residents who have the least money to spend on moving them in the first place. So the very people least able to afford a relocation are the ones most trapped by it. The math simply does not work for them. Spending $15,000 to move a home that might be worth $20,000 and risking that it shatters on the highway is not a real option for most families. So the choice makes itself. Guess what they do? They stay. And the numbers on this are almost unbelievable. Sun Communities, one of the largest owners of these parks in the world, reported that across more than 100,000 of its mobile home sites, the annual tenant move-out rate was under 1%, and the average resident stayed for something like 14 years. Surveys have found that around 3/4 of mobile homeowners expect to stay 5 years or more. Think about what that means for you as the owner. Your tenants are anchored to your land by physics and by economics. They cannot easily leave, and most of them never even try. That gives you a stream of income more stable than almost any other kind of rental property on Earth. Low turnover means low vacancy, low releasing cost, and enormous pricing power over time. You have a captive base of residents who maintain their own homes, on your land, and stay for over a decade. Let me put real numbers on it so the stickiness turns concrete. Imagine a modest park with 100 lots, and each resident pays you $400 a month in lot rent. That is $40,000 a month, or close to $500,000 a year, coming off a piece of land where you own almost none of the buildings. Now, compare the expense side to an apartment complex of the same size. The apartment owner is replacing roofs, fixing furnaces, repainting units, and turning over tenants who leave every year or two, and a huge share of the rent vanishes into all of it. The park owner maintains some roads and some water lines and little else, because 100 separate homeowners are each quietly maintaining their own homes. So not only does more of that rent survive as profit, but the income barely wobbles from year to year, because nobody is moving out. Now imagine gently raising that lot rent by a small amount each year on residents who cannot leave, and you can see how the value of the whole park compounds quietly in the background. Put those 3 layers together. Low maintenance, lot rent, utility pass-through that lifts your effective take, and a resident base that is physically and financially glued in place. That combination is why investors describe mobile home parks as boring but brilliant, and why the cash flow behaves less like a rental building and more like a toll you collect on a piece of ground people cannot afford to leave. To see how the smart money plays this, look at 2 very different lenses. And this is where the Buffett hook pays off in full. Start with Berkshire Hathaway. Back in 2003, Buffett's company bought Clayton Homes for around $1.7 billion. Now here is the crucial detail, and it is exactly why the reason has almost nothing to do with the homes themselves. Clayton is the largest manufactured home builder in the country, commanding roughly half of that market. But building the homes is not really where the deep money is. The engine underneath Clayton is financing. Clayton lends the money that lets low-income buyers purchase those homes, and it holds a mortgage portfolio worth many billions of dollars. For years, a huge share of Clayton's profit came not from hammering together houses, but from the interest on that giant book of loans. Buffett did not fall in love with vinyl siding and sheet metal. He fell in love with a durable, compounding stream of payments attached to housing that people desperately need. The home was the bait. The financing was the asset. Own the loan, not the lumber. And that is the exact same lesson that park owners live by, just from a different angle. Own the enduring financial position, the land or the loan, and let someone else hold the depreciating physical box. So now look at the second lens, the pure park operators. Companies like Equity Lifestyle Properties, chaired for years by the legendary real estate investor Sam Zell, and Sun Communities. These are large, publicly traded real estate investment trusts that own the ground under hundreds of manufactured home communities across the country, along with RV resorts and other land lease properties. Equity Lifestyle alone owns hundreds of properties. Sun Communities owns a comparable empire, and what they collect, year after year, is lot rent that ticks steadily upward on land they will hold essentially forever, from residents who almost never leave. These are not fly-by-night operators. They are some of the most respected names in real estate, and they built their fortunes on the least glamorous asset imaginable, the dirt under the trailers. Now here's the gut punch that ties the whole thing together. The mobile home, the product the entire industry is named after, is the single least mobile, fastest depreciating, least valuable part of the equation. And that is not a flaw in the business. It is the entire engine. Because the home cannot move, the tenant cannot move. Because the tenant owns the home, you, the landowner, carry almost none of the maintenance. And because the home loses value, while the land holds and grows its value, you have handed the shrinking asset to your resident and kept the growing one for yourself. Every incentive is quietly pointed in the landowner's favor. The people living there are not just customers. They are the ones maintaining, at their own expense, the very structures that keep your land occupied and your rent checks flowing. Now, where is this all heading? And why do the people who own these parks sleep so well at night? It comes down to supply. The United States has a deep and worsening shortage of affordable housing, and manufactured home communities are one of the cheapest ways for millions of people to have a place of their own. Demand for that affordability only grows. But here is the part that makes existing parks so valuable. Almost nobody is building new ones. Communities fight new mobile home parks fiercely. Zoning boards reject them. Neighbors do not want them nearby. The result is that the supply of parks is essentially frozen, and in many areas actually shrinking, as older parks get bought up and redeveloped into something else. So you have rising demand pressing against a fixed or falling supply on land that is protected from new competition by the very prejudice against it. That is a recipe for steadily rising rents and steadily rising land values. And it is exactly why large institutional investors have been quietly rolling up mobile home parks across the country for years. And this roll-up is one of the most telling parts of the whole story. For decades, most mobile home parks were owned by small local operators, often a single family, who had run the place for a generation and kept the rents low out of a sense of community. Then the big money noticed. Private equity firms, pension funds, and specialized real estate trusts realized that these mom-and-pop parks were sitting on exactly the kind of asset they crave. Reliable income, trapped tenants, almost no new supply, and rents that had been kept far below what the market could bear. So they began buying them up, park by park, and pushing the rents toward market rates. To the investor, it is simply closing the gap between an underpriced asset and its true value. To the residents, it can feel like the ground beneath their homes was quietly sold out from under them. Both things are true at once, and that tension is the defining feature of where this asset class is headed. But let me be honest about the other side, because this business sits on a genuine ethical and regulatory fault line, and the good years look very different from the bad ones. In a good year, the machine hums. You nudge lot rents up by a modest amount, your residents cannot realistically leave, your vacancy stays near zero, your maintenance stays low, and your margin quietly expands. That is the dream the investors talk about. But that same power over people who cannot leave is exactly what draws scrutiny. When a park owner raises rent aggressively on residents who are effectively trapped, it can look less like smart investing and more like squeezing the vulnerable. That tension is real, and it has consequences. A number of states have passed laws that cap how much lot rent can rise in a year, in some places limiting annual increases to a set percentage, and that directly caps your upside. Tenant protection laws are spreading, and the financing side of this world carries its own heavy baggage. The very Clayton lending empire that Buffett bought has faced serious accusations over the years about high-interest loans and sales practices aimed at low-income buyers. Allegations the company has disputed, but which put a spotlight on just how thin the line can be between serving a market and exploiting it. And then there are the plainer risks. The infrastructure in older parks, the underground water and sewer lines, can be decades old, and when it fails, replacing it is genuinely expensive, one of the few big capital costs a park owner can face. A park in a weak location, with a shrinking local economy, can see homes abandoned and lots sit empty, and an empty lot earns nothing. So the model is powerful, but it is not untouchable. It rises and falls on your ability to buy the right land, to treat residents in a way that does not invite a regulatory backlash, and to keep the basic infrastructure alive underneath them. So strip it all the way down. When you own a mobile home park, you are not really in the housing business at all. You have quietly stepped out of owning the thing that breaks, ages, and loses value, and stepped into owning the thing that never does. You collect rent on the ground, you pass the utilities back, and you rely on the fact that the homes on your land are far too expensive and too fragile to ever move. Warren Buffett saw the same truth from the lending side. The home is not the asset. It never was. You do not really own trailers on a lot. You own the dirt beneath the feet of people who cannot afford to leave. And you have made yourself the quiet landlord of the one kind of housing America cannot do without.